Hey guys, this is Brent Rose, and today we're checking out the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. This one is kind of aimed at aspiring indie filmmakers. It's very affordable, but packs in a lot of quality. It's also pretty compact. It's very lightweight. The ergonomics are pretty good, but there's no image stabilization built into it, so you'll notice a lot of shake. It's also a bit cheap and plasticky, especially these port covers, but what's under the ports are really handy, like the full-sized HDMI, power, and mini XLR. The back of the camera is dominated by this huge 5-inch touchscreen, and it's pretty bright, but on a bright day I definitely found myself wishing I had a viewfinder. It does make adjusting the settings extremely easy and very intuitive. It has one of the simplest menu systems of any camera I've ever used. It's here you can choose between RAW, lossless video, or RAW 3.1, or ProRes, HQ, 422, LT. We'll get into that in the written part of the review. But generally the menu is laid out extremely well, and it's easy to adjust everything. There are also a handful of physical buttons, including these 3 customizable function buttons, which you can use for previewing footage with LUTs or pretty much anything you want. Now let's get into the footage itself. The clips you're about to see were all shot with ProRes 422 or LT, but if you want to pixel peep some raw DNG video, we're going to make some clips available for you to download and check out in DaVinci Resolve on your own. So this is what it looks like straight out of the camera with no adjustments at all. And then we're going to throw some color correction on there and a basic LUT, and that actually looks a lot like it looked on that day. It was this beautiful sunset in the Bay Area. One thing you'll notice is there's no continuous autofocus with this, so you can tap to focus, but you really need a DP who knows what they're doing with pulling focus. These colors that come through here from the sunset are really just incredible. The depth of them and the nuance is just about unbeatable. This was an interesting shot because it's very backlit, but the colors that it brings out are really just incredible. That's kind of just a basic correction here, and now I added a more cinematic LUT to just give it a little artistic flair, but pretty incredible what it can capture. Again, we've got this very flat, raw video, and just a basic color correction really makes it pop. And just so you know, her hair actually is purple. It's not the camera screwing up there. The file sizes this camera produces are absolutely massive, but what you're getting for that is a ton of flexibility. So I'm just throwing a bunch of different LUTs on there, and you can really play with a creative style. The colors are really where it's at with this camera. It'll also shoot 4K 60 FPS. You can even do a high frame rate mode where it's shooting 4K 60 but mixes it down to 24 frames a second. So this is slowed down 40%. And it's just very high quality slow motion. I put a nice warm LUT on there to help bring out the colors of the sunset. Now we're going to get into some comparison footage with the Sony a7R III. Now the Sony a7 III is probably a better, more fair comparison because they're more similar in price, but I didn't have one of those on hand. For these clips I shot in a pretty flat color profile for the Sony, and I did my best to kind of grade them equally. So this is that backlit grassy scene again with just a basic LUT, and what really impresses me with the Blackmagic is the nuance of color. Now when you see the Sony clip here, the highlights are not quite as blown out and the shadows are a little bit lifted too. So essentially the Sony has a little bit better dynamic range, which is to be expected, but the colors don't have as much nuance. Here's a nice sort of mountain scene. Again, the colors, a lot of variation, a lot of subtlety in the colors here from the Blackmagic. The Sony, everything's nice and sharp, the colors pop. I mean, both of them look really good, don't get me wrong. So now we're getting into low light testing. This is ISO 3200, which is one of the native ISOs on the Blackmagic. And for these both, I didn't apply a LUT, just a basic white balance. And you can see the Sony's a lot brighter, which is what you'd expect for just a way bigger sensor on the full frame Sony. Now we're at ISO 6400. Again, looks pretty good. There's not a lot of noise here, which is really impressive. Again, the Sony is going to be a lot brighter. These are the exact same settings, f1.8, 1/50th of a second shutter speed. And now we're at ISO 25600, which is the peak for the Blackmagic. And now it's definitely getting pretty noisy. The Sony is a lot cleaner, which you'd expect, but you can't really get away with it from either camera, certainly not the Blackmagic, so don't shoot that high. Anyway, the main takeaway is that this camera shoots incredible footage for the price. That said, there are some quirks, so make sure you read the full review on Gizmodo before you hit that buy button. Thanks for watching.